Hello, good morning. Welcome to the July 29th meeting of the Local Superintendent's Advisory Council. If we have anyone attending virtually, we ask that you ensure your video is streaming and that you can be seen throughout the duration of the meeting. We will start off with a roll call. Flip to Sam, please. Help us with that.
Good morning. Brian Alexander.
Present.
Kirk Biggerstaff.
Here.
Harry Burchett.
Here.
Tom Cochran.
Here.
David Cox.
Here.
Will Hodges.
Here.
Sheila Mitchell. Russ Tilford.
Here.
David Trimble. Henry Webb. You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. To begin our meeting, we invite the Commissioner Fletcher to provide an update on the Kentucky Department of Education.
Thank you, Chair Biggerstaff. And again, this is an exciting time of year. We're getting ready for the opening. We have several that are dealing with opening events already. So again, it's great to see everyone. But I do have about 3 updates I'll go over. First of all, we were notified on Friday we'd be receiving all Title funds. And you know, we had Title 1C, which is migrant education, it was $7.9 million. Title 2A is 33.6, and that's supporting of effective instruction. Title 3A was 5.8, which is English language acquisition. Title 4A is 20.3, which is student support and academic enrichment. Now, those 4 were, we'd had received notice about Title 4B, which is our 21st century. The original allocation for that was 19.4 and is actually increased to 19.7. The numbers I gave you about the other is what we were allocated in the past, and we haven't received the actual numbers. We've just been told that those funds hopefully will come in by Friday of this week. I will say I do want to give you a little bit of background very quickly. I'm talking about KDE and our team here, we did supply a declaration of harm to our governor, and our governor then entered into a lawsuit with 23 other states about the Title funds and also the District of Columbia. Now, there was, of course, with the release of funds, I'm assuming that that's finished. But again, I do want to thank the governor for on our behalf of entering into that lawsuit. And I also want to thank the Team KDE members that were part of that. Todd Allen took a lead role on writing that declaration of harm. Matt Ross, Kelly Foster, and others helped out tremendously with that. So again, I want to thank Team KDE for that work on that letter. Also, too, and again, once we get those allocations, we'll get it out to districts as quickly as possible. But I know that as soon as that came out and I was able to put out the information on Friday, there was a huge sigh of relief for so many. Also, too, we are in the advocacy phase for our new accountability model. Just quick highlights: we still have the piece that has the state accountability that meets federal requirements, which includes some quick highlights. The adaptive tests in reading and math. That's what we're looking at as part of the reading and math portion. The move from change to student growth. Again, science will be pulled out separately in the new model. We'll still have transition readiness, graduation rate, and also ELL progress as a part of the state accountability that meets federal requirements. Also, too, the most important part, in my opinion, is the local accountability portion, which focuses on vibrant learning, social studies, and writing. But also, too, we've had some very interesting numbers that's been quoted to us about interim assessments, and there's been some discussions about, you know, if a district wants to opt in on the interim assessments that we'll be offering. We're getting some quotes that we feel like we could possibly save districts at least half if we looked at a statewide interim system. So again, very exciting work there. And the last thing I'll say is as far as the accountability model, we are publishing with our District of Innovation group a local accountability toolkit to help districts to develop that local accountability if they're not already in the middle of that process. Another item I want to update everyone, and if you've probably already seen the release on this, our science assessments did change this year. Since there was a change, there has to be a change in the standard setting. So that's going to delay the public release of test scores. Now, we are still on track for every district to get the student level data in all other areas, I think Wednesday of next week. So next week, look for around Wednesday, sooner or later, but we still are on track for all student level data, student specific data, to go to districts next week. So very thankful for that. Even though we can't do a public release, we want to make sure that, as we've done several years in the past, to make sure you get that student level data as quickly as possible. And also, too, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, many of our districts were getting ready. To me, this is almost like Christmas. We talk about Christmas in July and the start of the new year. Love seeing kids come into the building. I think I know I'm doing a couple of opening days. I enjoy that, enjoy the visits. But again, just want to wish every single district in the state of Kentucky and across our nation the absolute best of luck and wish them all the best this year. I hope everybody meets all their goals. And again, just so thankful to be able to see kids back in classrooms each year. So those are my three areas. There's a lot of others, but we have a long agenda, Chair Biggerstaff.
right.
So I thought I'll end there and I'll answer any questions anyone may
All
have.
right. Does anybody have any questions for the commissioner?
We're getting a lot of questions about the ACT, SAT. You may not be able, with the legal things, may not be able to speak to that, but is there an update or is there anything?
What I can provide is we are able to move forward with working with SAT, but we're still waiting on that protest. So there is a protest, as I can talk about. There is a protest from one of the vendors, and we're waiting on the results of that. Now we are working with SAT to plan to move forward, but again, we're still waiting for that call.
All right, thank you. We have policies for review and action, several on the agenda. First, we welcome Dr. Lauren Graves, who will be joining us virtually from the Kentucky Department of Education's Office of Career and Technical Education to present the proposed annual amendments to the Area Technology Center policies and procedures.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for allowing us to participate remotely so we can attend the Kentucky Association for Career and Technical Education Summer Conference. Dr. Hargis is sorry she's unable to attend today as she is actually presenting in that opening session this morning. I will actually turn it over to Beth Engel, who will discuss our two items this morning.
Well, good morning, and I also want to say thank you for allowing us to attend virtually. We are bringing forth the annual amendments to the Kentucky Tech ATC policies and procedures, the OCTE and the ATC's contract with the Kentucky School Board Association to maintain the ATC policies and procedures to align with legislative changes. We have 39 policies and 6 procedures that were reviewed in light of statutory changes, and some were cleaned up for clarity and alignment with current practices. The revised ATC policies and procedures were provided in your KBE portal for your review and consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on any of those.
Does anybody have any questions? With none being asked, I would ask the council to entertain a motion to approve the annual amendments to the Area Technology Center policies and procedures. Do I have a motion on that?
Harry Burchett, Harrison County, I'll make a motion to approve those policies and procedures. Is that also the Tech Student Handbook as well? Just policies and procedures?
Mm-hmm.
We do have the student handbook that we are bringing forth that has also been updated to align with legislative changes and for clarity. It was also provided in the KBE portal for your review and consideration as well.
Yeah, I think that'll be the next on the agenda. And do we have a second?
Will Hodges, second.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, we will have a roll call vote.
Brian Alexander,
Yes.
Kirk Biggerstaff,
Yes.
Harry Burchett,
Yes.
Tom Cochran,
Yes.
David Cox,
Yes.
Will Hodges,
Yes.
Sheila Mitchell, who's joined, Russ Tilford,
Yes.
David Trimble, who's joined online,
Yes.
Henry Webb. The motion passes.
Thank you. Dr. Grace will next present proposed annual amendments to the Kentucky Tech Student Handbook.
Yes, and Ms. Engel clarified for us just a moment ago that that is a separate item here. Though the Kentucky Tech Student Handbook was provided in the KBE portal as well, but if you have any questions, we're happy to answer.
Do we have any questions about that? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve this, please.
Motion.
We've got a motion on the floor. I need a second.
Second it.
And we have a second. At this time, we will have a roll call vote.
Brian Alexander,
Yes.
Kirk Biggerstaff,
Yes.
Harry Burchett,
Yes.
Tom Cochran,
Yes.
David Cox,
Yes.
Will Hodges,
Yes.
Sheila Mitchell,
Yes.
Russ Tilford,
Yes.
David Trimble,
Yes.
Henry Webb. The motion carries.
Thank you, ladies. We appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Up next, we invite Dr. Greta Hilton and Shannon Spargman from the Office of Special Education and Early Learning to present the proposed annual policy adoptions and amendments for the Kentucky School for the Blind and the Kentucky School for the Deaf.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Actually, we have Melody Cooper with us. Ms. Sparkman's unable to be here today. So before you, we also have our annual policy amendments for Kentucky School for the Blind, Kentucky School for the Deaf. These are also aligned with the model policies with KSBA, and we have reviewed these through our Office of Finance and Operations for the policy and personnel types of changes, and as well as the Office of Legal Services. Our school personnel have had a chance to review, as well as the Kentucky School for the Blind and Kentucky School for the Deaf Advisory Board members. And you have the materials available to you in the packet. So if you have any questions, we're happy to discuss those.
Any questions? With none being asked, I would ask the council to entertain a motion to approve the annual policy adoptions and amendments for the Kentucky School for the Blind and the Kentucky School for the Deaf. Is there a motion?
Tom Cochran, I will make a motion.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Let's have a roll call up.
Brian Alexander,
Yes.
Kirk Biggerstaff,
Yes.
Harry Burchett,
Yes.
Tom Cochran,
Yes.
David Cox,
Yes.
Will Hodges,
Yes.
Sheila Mitchell,
Yes.
Russ Tilford,
Yes.
David Trimble, Henry Webb.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Up next, we invite Matt Ross, Che Ritter, and Roger Banks from the Office of Finance and Operations forward to present the Kentucky minimum specifications for school buses.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Matt Ross. I'm the Associate Commissioner in the Office of Finance and Operations.
Che Ritter with the Division of District Support.
So this is another annual item that we bring before you. It's the annual update to the school bus minimum specifications. I think you all are pretty familiar. I'll turn it over to Che and let him sort of talk through the major changes. I don't think there were a lot going for this year. Go ahead, Che.
Yeah, so it's the same bus spec committee, same process we've used for many years. It's a good process. There's a lot of input. Pretty large group for this committee. It includes not only school district personnel, but also the bus manufacturers will send several people to sit in. And some years that I've been overseeing this, you'll see some pretty significant changes in that bus manufacturing, or if they see something that's just not quite working, they'll go back to the manufacturers. It may be LED taillights. Now that's a standard. This year, it seemed like it was a lot of finer detail stuff like strobe light casings, consistency in using the ribbed flooring so there's an easy transition when you're walking. And as always, the goal is safety, safety, safety. We also keep in mind the cost. These buses obviously have jumped in price. And anytime there's any conversation about larger changes, and I don't know what it might be, but if it's going to increase the cost significantly, we kind of take that into a factor. But safety obviously is always the go. And if you'd like, Chair, I can go through a few of the minor changes that we plucked out of there. One was about updating language on a requirement for a steel braided Teflon supply line, and these will be very detailed changes. A lot of it's just updating the manual, removing obsolete engines from that manual, for example, and transmissions.
Yeah, they did a lot of cleanup.
A lot of
the
cleanup.
manual.
Of course, in this bus spec manual, I couldn't tell you how far back it goes. It's a pretty old document. They just kind of continually and organically update. Additional tire size options, increase the intensity of daytime running lights to that of normal low beam headlight intensity. Mentioned the corrugated or ribbed flooring, having the same throughout the bus. Required a barrier component if a seat pouch is not available, and some strobe light changes. And one is putting a new strobe light, I believe, in the rear, towards the rear of the bus. and a new casing for it. And so that was really the biggest items we could see in these changes. Happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions? Not a lot of questions this morning. Okay, I would ask that the council entertain a motion to approve the 2026 Kentucky minimum specifications for school buses. Do we have a motion? We've got a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
And we've got a second. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Brian Alexander,
Yes.
Kirk Biggerstaff,
Yes.
Harry Burchett,
Yes.
Tom Cochran,
Yes.
David Cox,
Yes.
Will Hodges,
Yes.
Sheila Mitchell,
Yes.
Russ Tilford,
Yes.
David Trimble,
Yes.
Henry Webb. The motion carries.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all. Very
Appreciate
much.
it. Now we have regulations for review and action. We have several regulations on the table at this time. We welcome Deputy Commissioner and General Counsel Todd Allen and Deputy General Counsel Corey Nichols from the Office of Legal Services to present the proposed new administrative regulations, 701 KAR 510 and 701 KAR 5170E waiver requests.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have two new administrative regulations for your review. One is an ordinary regulation and one is an emergency, but they're identical in nature. The reason that we also have an emergency regulation for your review is so that districts can immediately utilize the provisions that are in there. Otherwise, we would have to wait for 7 to 9 months for the ordinary regulation to become effective. So when we refer to the regulations throughout the discussion, we can look at the ordinary regulation. Like I said, they're identical in nature. These set forth the new waiver process for school districts to request waivers from administrative regulations and statutes that is the result of Senate Bill 207 from this legislative session. And I will turn it over to Corey to walk you through what these regulations look like.
Good morning. We'll go ahead and go on to this next slide. First, a comparison. The old system allowed the board, upon request of a local board, to waive any of our own KBE regulations with a few exceptions. The new waiver process includes waivers of both statutes and regulations within the board's enforcement authority. We can also request School of Innovation designation to allow contract with education service providers to assist in management. These waivers are effective for 3 full school years, subject to early termination by a 2/3 vote of the Kentucky Board of Education. And perhaps most importantly, the board promulgates regulations with procedures and forms, which we've prepared. And there are 5 discrete forms that are pretty intuitive, even though there's a lot on them, each one. Next slide, please. First, a few exceptions that cannot be waived. Of course, health and safety, including criminal background checks, civil rights or federal law requirements, compulsory attendance requirements, certification requirements for teachers, except waivers are possible for up to 25% of your teaching staff in a school if they hold a bachelor's or master's in the subject that they're going to teach. We cannot waive state assessments or financial audits, open records and open meetings, procurement requirements, or minimum instructional time. Next slide, please. There are 4 major types of the waiver requests: new applications, renewal or amendment applications, and finally special education maximum class size applications. New application is a little less obvious than it sounds. It's not only for any application that is brand new, it's any application for a waiver that is not currently in effect. So if a waiver has lapsed and is no longer in effect, and a district or school wants to have that waiver be reinstated, they would then apply for a new application instead of a renewal. Next slide, please. On the first form, you'll have the application cover sheet. This has a designation of what kind of application you're going to be using and what kind of waiver you're going to be seeking. You're going to indicate the application type, whether it's a new, a renewal, or an amendment application. Thankfully, the form itself, as you can see, the top half of this first page has definitions for each of those applications, so you don't have to look elsewhere. It'll be on the form itself when you're looking as to what kind of application you're going to be making. You're going to name the schools or programs in the district to which the waiver will apply. There are several paragraphs outlining the requirements and the required attachments. Those are things that the applicant will have to ensure that they comply with so that the application is processed correctly. And then the application cover sheet will be signed by a local board chair on behalf of the local board. Next slide, please. This form is the specific waiver request form. This is primarily for the new applications. You're going to attach this to the application cover sheet for the new applications. You're going to indicate whether the district seeks School of Innovation designation, and you're going to explain how the waiver of each statute or regulation will improve operations or student achievement as part of the specific waiver request form. Next slide, please. Then we've got renewal and amendment. These are two separate forms. We have a renewal application form and an amendment application form. They're fairly similar. The renewal application form is also attached to the application cover sheet. You identify the previous waiver, including any amendments. You provide evidence of improvement as a result of the previously granted waiver to show why it's been effective. For an amendment application form, you attach to the application cover sheet. You identify the previous waiver as before, including any amendments. And you may request to add or remove schools or programs. You may request additional statutes or regulations to be waived. You may request termination in whole or part of previously granted waivers. Next slide, please. The special education maximum class size application can be requested by the superintendent or a school-based decision-making council. It collects information regarding the school, teacher, classroom type, and caseload, signed by superintendent or school principal. This is not a new waiver. It was previously decided by the Office of Special Education and Early Learning. Now, according to the statute, it will be decided by KBE. Next slide, please. Once your application is submitted, there are two primary steps before it's presented to the board for approval. The first is a technical review. The department will perform a technical review and notify the requesting party of certain items, including the date that it was received, the number assigned to it, the KBE meeting date when the waiver will be acted upon. If it was received by the department less than 45 days in advance of the next meeting, the automatic denial will be recommended unless it's determined by the commissioner to address an emergency. If the request seeks waiver of statute or regulations that we cannot waive because it's one of those exceptions listed earlier, then denial of those portions will be recommended. If the request doesn't meet the requirements of SB 207 or the regulation, denial will also be recommended. Instructions on voluntary withdrawal of the request prior to the meeting, and instructions on how the requester may request a different KBE meeting date. Next slide, please. After the technical review, the waiver application will undergo a substantive review. The portions of the waiver that are not recommended for denial during the previous phase will undergo a substantive review to address the following: the student academic achievement of the past 3 school years, the processes that the requester will use to measure the success of the waiver if it's granted, the likelihood of the school's programs in realizing meaningful operational efficiency improvements, the likelihood of students in the schools and programs realizing improved academic achievement, how the district anticipates and addresses potential adverse impacts on achievement, the establishment of high expectations for student learning, and for the special education maximum class size application, any other factors set forth in IDEA. Next slide. Once it passes those through those 2 stages, when it's considered by the board on the approval or disapproval standard, the commissioner shall recommend approval of a waiver request only if he or she finds that the requested waiver is more likely than not either to improve school or program operations without hindering student academic achievement, or that the waiver is more likely than not to improve student academic achievement at the school or program. Ultimately, regardless of whatever recommendations, the board makes the ultimate decision to approve or deny the waiver request, either in whole or in part. Within 10 days of the board's action, the requester will receive a written notification. Next slide, please. Thank you. Finally, the termination of the waiver. The requester may voluntarily terminate the waiver through the amendment application. The waiver may also be involuntarily terminated by the Kentucky Board of Education if the board finds at any time by a 2/3 majority that a specific waiver that was granted has hindered school or program operations, endangered students, impeded student academic achievement, or supported financial malfeasance or criminal activity. In that case, the waiver shall be rescinded. No less than 20 days notice of the meeting to determine the involuntary termination. We will provide reasons and documents to be considered by KBE as evidence to support that termination. and the district will have an ability to respond within 15 calendar days following that notice. Hopefully, this streamlines the process and makes the waiver application process fairly intuitive. The next slide is just asking if there are any questions.
Do you have any questions? What are the most common waiver requests that the department receives typically?
I would say that's probably facilities.
Good old facilities.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which we do recognize is, the 3-year provision that we talked about, that the waiver is valid, was put forth in the statute. That's not what we've created in regulation, and we do realize that that creates a bit of an issue with facilities, right? If I get a waiver for a school building that lasts 3 years, that building is surely going to last me a lot longer than 3 years. So we'll have those conversations with the General Assembly to see if they need to make some changes to the statute going forward to recognize the difference in facilities waivers versus, those for academic programs.
All right. Any other questions?
I don't have a question. I do have a comment. I want to praise KD Legal and Associate Commissioner Ross on this work on this. I'm working with them currently on a waiver request on the DFP process. Actually, the renewal or extension of the DFP, and all of you are aware of that. The current system requires a convene of a new LPC for the purpose of requesting a extension of the DFP, which really sounds kind of counterintuitive to bring in new folks from your community to approve the extension of a DFP that was created by a different body at least 4 years prior. Appreciate this process and the opportunity to streamline the waiver process as a part of SB 207. And the work that Todd, you and your team have done. So thank you.
Thank you. I would ask the council to entertain a motion to approve 701 KAR 5170 and 701 KAR 5170E waiver requests. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I've got a motion. I need a second.
Second.
I've got a second. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Brian Alexander,
Yes.
Kirk Biggerstaff,
Yes.
Harry Burchett,
Yes.
Tom Cochran,
Yes.
David Cox,
Yes.
Will Hodges,
Yes.
Sheila Mitchell,
Yes.
Russ Tilford,
Yes.
David Trimble,
Yes.
Henry Webb. The motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate that. Next, Dr. Kelly Foster and Dr. Matthew Courtney from the Office of Continuous Improvement and Support will present proposed amendments to 703 KAR 5280 School Improvement Procedures. Welcome.
Welcome. Good morning. As the chair stated, we are bringing our school improvement regulation 280 to today. We are making some amendments. These are based on some of them are based on House Bill 298, and then we've also made some additional amendments to strengthen the reg and provide it with more clarity. And so at this time, my policy advisor, Dr. Courtney, will walk you through the changes, and then we'll be glad to take questions.
Thank you. Good morning. You'll see through our regulation that most of our changes are pretty lengthy. So in lieu of slides, we're going to direct you to the regulation itself today and talk through that. Text would be pretty small on the slides.
This was Representative Tipton's piece of legislation, and we worked very closely with him over the last 2 years to get many of the changes in the statute. So we appreciate working with him and the work that he did on this piece of legislation. We feel like it's really going to help strengthen the school improvement work.
Okay, so Glyptosine, we're on the bottom of page 5 for our first substantive change. So this is the section of the regulation that discusses the audit team that would go into a comprehensive support and improvement school to perform that diagnostic review. You'll see here that we've added a time limitation for the parent and legal guardian members. So they must be a parent and legal guardian who has a school-age child within the last 3 years. So that gives us a little more flexibility and clarity on who that person should be. We've also removed the required university representative, and in lieu of that, we've added a new minority requirement here. This is the same minority requirement that we use in pretty much any other school council, SBDM councils, turnaround teams, advisory leadership teams, et cetera. So making sure that if a school has a minority population, that we are reflecting that minority population on the turnaround team. In the middle of page 6, line 9, you'll see we've struck the language at the discretion of the audit team. This is related to our analysis of the principal's capacity to lead the turnaround process in a CSI school. This is to conform to changes in the House bill that principal capacity recommendation has been optional for the past few years. It is now a requirement again in the statute. Moving ahead to page 9, line 15. Here we've added a clarifying provision that no district shall have more than one district audit every 3 years, no matter how many comprehensive support improvement schools they have. So since we are moving back to annual identification in the statute this year, there is potential that a district could have a CSI school enter this year and then next year another CSI school enter. And we don't think it's appropriate for the district level audit to happen annually like that as new schools come in. So we've just put a clarifying provision. So one district audit every 3 years, no matter how often new CSI schools are coming in. The next substantive change is on the bottom of page 12, or rather the middle of page 12, line 8 here. So in the House bill, they removed the requirement for us to maintain a turnaround vendor list. And so we've removed language related to that turnaround vendor list. That's no longer an option. KDE will be the primary turnaround vendor, for lack of a better term, for all comprehensive support and improvement schools. That doesn't mean that these schools can't work with other vendors if they want to contract out for professional learning, for other kinds of leadership development and supports. But in terms of maintaining that turnaround process and those compliance elements, KDE is the primary provider of that. And down on line 17, you'll see some change here related to the turnaround team. So the House bill requires that turnaround teams now be developed and selected by the department in collaboration with the superintendent and approved by the local board or charter school governing board. So that's a slight change to our process that will just, I think, provide a little better clarity. Scrolling down to line 22 here and on to the top of the next page, we've provided some new language around who the turnaround team is and what their responsibilities are. This is really to align to current practice and guidance. So we've just clarified the duties of that turnaround team. So the turnaround team is responsible for leading the development and initial implementation of the 3-year turnaround plan, providing support and capacity building and instructional leadership, curriculum, and school level system building, monitoring the school's progress toward turnaround plan goals, including conducting regular data and implementation reviews, advising the superintendent and principal on staffing, scheduling, resource allocation, professional learning aligned with the turnaround objectives, collaborating with the school principal to establish systems that support evidence-based instructional practices and equitable learning environments, providing relevant professional learning for teachers, supporting the transition of the improvement efforts to the advisory leadership team prior to the exit of CSI status, and any other activities deemed necessary by the commissioner to support the turnaround. So we've had lots of questions in the past about what this team is really required to do. So providing that additional language we think will provide some much needed clarity. At the bottom of page 13, you'll see some more language struck that is related to the turnaround vendor list that has been struck because it was removed from the statute. On page 15, line 13, this is language related to the advisory leadership team. So just as a reminder, when a school becomes a comprehensive support and improvement school, their SBDM council loses its authority. It is replaced by an advisory leadership team. And so this, just like we do a turnaround team, we've provided some clarity around the roles and responsibilities of that advisory leadership team as well. So you'll see that we've provided some new language related to the Kentucky Open Meetings Act. So we've always said these meetings should be open to the public. We're just clarifying that when we say open to the public, we mean in compliance with open meetings. We've clarified that they are a consultative body. And you'll see that we've added a couple of responsibilities here, serving as a representative voice of the school community during the turnaround process. Moving on to page 16, promoting a positive school culture focused on distributed leadership, continuous improvement, and high expectations for all students. In line 4, we swapped data-driven for the phrase evidence-based to align to the Every Student Succeeds Act. And then 2 additional responsibilities here, supporting transparent communication with stakeholders by reviewing progress data and helping to disseminate key information. And then we think most importantly, retaining institutional knowledge and supporting the continuity of improvement after the departure of the turnaround team. So you'll remember in the turnaround team section, we've created a new responsibility that they are responsible for upskilling the ALT. So when they exit status, the turnaround team leaves, the advisory leadership team stays, and they have the skills and knowledge to continue the improvement process once they're gone. On page 17, you'll see a new section 9. This is 2 additional requirements that were put in place in the House bill. So all schools identified for CSI shall participate in professional learning activities deemed appropriate by the department, and they must all adopt a high quality instructional materials within 18 months from the notice of their identification. So part of that turnaround process has always been and will now very formally be a review of curriculum and instructional materials and the necessary replacement should they be necessary. In section 10, toward the bottom of page 17, we have clarified the rules for identification for more rigorous intervention to say that a school identified for comprehensive support and improvement that does not make annual improvement for 2 consecutive years or exit the status after 3 years shall be subject to further intervention by the department. This is part of the ESSA. This has been in our regulation in the past, and if you look at the top of page 18, you'll see some language that's been struck out. We've just rephrased that for clarity. It's the same standard, it's the same content, but over the years we just sort of kept adding, and we thought this was a good chance to stop adding and just sort of clean that up. So we've done that here. Let's see. You'll see the same thing in the middle of page 18 related to the districts and their audit process. So when a school becomes more rigorous intervention, the district also gets an audit. When that school gets an audit, but then we've clarified here that 3-year cycle that we discussed on an earlier page. And then the final substantive change to the regulation begins on the bottom of page 21 and carries over into page 22. And this is related to school-based decision-making council authority and their reinstatement. So as I mentioned earlier, CSI school councils lose their authority once they're identified and have their diagnostic review. And then 2 years after they exit the status, they're able to regain that authority. But we're having some confusion and some questions about how that actually happens. So we've added some language here to clarify the process. So we've suggested here that within 60 days from the date of eligibility, the local school board shall consider the school-based decision-making council's authority reinstatement. So that is in the statute as a Board of Education decision. So we're asking them within 60 days to have that conversation. If they do choose to reinstate the council's authority, then the council will reestablish itself following its existing policies and procedures. So all those SBDM councils already have policies and procedures for electing representatives and filling vacancies. So they'll use those existing policies to reestablish themselves as a council. And then if they decline to reinstate authority, we're requiring that they provide a rationale for declining the authority, a list of criteria the school must meet in order to seek reconsideration of that decision, a date at which time they may seek reconsideration of that decision. And we've also clarified that the advisory leadership team shall stay in place until authority is reinstated. You'll also see at the bottom of this, section 15 has been struck. That is all, again, just turnaround vendor information and documents incorporated by reference. So those are our changes to this regulation, and we'll be happy to address any questions.
Do we have any questions? Would ask for a motion to approve the amendments to 703 KAR 5280 school improvement procedures. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
And we have a second. Let's do a roll call vote, please. Thank you.
Kirk Biggerstaff,
Yes?
excuse me, Brian Alexander,
Yes.
Kirk Biggerstaff,
Yes.
Harry Burchett,
Yes.
Tom Cochran,
Yes.
David Cox,
Yes.
Will Hodges,
Yes.
Sheila Mitchell,
Yes.
Russ Tilford,
Yes.
David Trimble,
Yes.
Henry Webb. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you all. The final regulation on today's agenda concerns amendments to 704 KAR 3440 primary school program guidelines presented by Dr. Thomas Tucker, Mickey Marinelli, and Sarah Medley from the Office of Teaching and Learning. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Biggerstaff, members of LSAC, and Commissioner Fletcher. The OTL has one item, 704 KAR 3.44. The primary school program guides have a couple of amendments, and Mickey and Sarah will address those amendments, after which we'll answer any questions. But before that, I want to wish our superintendents and, of course, our students and staff a wonderful, wonderful start of the 25-26 school year. I generally get a little excited, then I forget. I'm okay.
Thank you, Dr. Tucker. Good morning, superintendents. It's wonderful to be with you this morning. So this regulation was set to expire, and we have reviewed it and we've made technical amendments. So there aren't really any substantive changes to the regulation. So we're just going to walk you through some of the sections. We know that you have access to that regulation, but in Section 1, we provided updates simply to the definition. So there is statute now that requires them to be in alphabetical order, not in order of appearance in the regulation. And so we've taken the time to do that. There are amendments to Section 3. Again, they are not substantive in nature, but they do they align to KRS 158.031. So that's the guiding statute that really informs this regulation around the primary program. And there is language, I do want to read this one to you. So in Section 3, it says eligible children as defined in 158.031, that's the statute, who attend the primary school program may advance through the program without regard to age or in a specific grade level. And so you have always had the authority to be able to move students depending upon the developmental appropriateness of that, their ability to master the required academic standards. So we're just clarifying that language to better align to what's in the statute. In Section 4, we're aligning to current statutory requirements for reading and mathematics instruction specifically. So you can see we've added in language around 158.305, which is the main Read to Succeed statute. KRS 158.791, which details the legislative goals for reading and mathematics, and KRS 158.840 and 8402, which are found within numeracy counts. And so basically it's talking about the curriculum requirements for primary program must be aligned to standards and meet the requirements set forth in Read to Succeed and numeracy counts. You were already doing those things. It was just our chance to ensure that there was coherence across all of those pieces of legislation. And then lastly, amendments to Section 5 remove an outdated reporting requirement. And that requirement was removed in statute back in 1998. Is that correct, Sarah? And so we're just aligning the regs so that we don't have an additional reporting requirement that's not supported by statute. But happy to address any questions that you may have this morning.
Do we have any questions? Good, that's the theme for this meeting.
Wow.
I like it. I would ask the council to entertain a motion to approve the amendments to 704 KAR 3440 primary school program guidelines. Do we have a motion?
Got motion.
We have a motion and a second. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Brian Alexander,
Yes.
Kirk Biggerstaff,
Yes.
Harry Burchett,
Yes.
Tom Cochran,
Yes.
David Cox,
Yes.
Will Hodges,
Yes.
Sheila Mitchell,
Yes.
Russ Tilford,
Yes.
David Trimble,
Yes.
Henry Webb. The motion carries.
Thank you all.
you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And before we adjourn, Commissioner has one more thing he would like to add.
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to make a comment about, we're talking about trying to remove reporting requirements. We've gone through an extensive process this summer, and we're continuing through that to look at all the reports that are required we started off with looking at the important due dates for superintendents and say which of these are required statutorily, which of these are outdated, which of these are maybe not important. And so we're looking at, we've actually had an intern work in the Office of Legal Services to review that, and we're going through a process to say what can we remove to kind of remove that, some of the burdens of districts on some of the reporting. So trying to take that, I know we had House Bill 48, we've talked about the red tape reduction, but try to take that to another level to say, okay, these are reports that are not in use or not effective, then making those, and even if it is required in statute, maybe asking the General Assembly to say, can we remove some of these reporting requirements? So again, one of the things that was mentioned here was removing a reporting requirement. And I want to make sure that everyone knows that that's a process that we're going through right now as we move forward to try to help out our districts. And also, too, if it's important, we want to do it. If it's not effective, it doesn't impact student learning, let's look at another either removing that or how can we make it effective. So just want to make you aware.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think anytime that we can increase efficiency, we're all about that. So thank you. Do we have anything else before we adjourn? All right. Thank you for a good meeting. Our next meeting will be September 23rd. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So made.
Got the motion and a second. All right. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.